Hey everybody, it's your pal Ian. We are here for another Teal Tinted Glasses Barracuda After Dark version. Game 2 of the first round series between the San Jose Barracuda and the Stockton Heat, which ended with a 6-4 score in favor of the Barracuda today in an afternoon tilt at SAP Center. So obviously we're here to break it all down. Thanks for coming on with the later start, just easier for everyone involved. I guess, Zach, let's get down to business. Zach, obviously joining me again, as always. Zach the Bear on Twitter, at ZAKK the Bear. I even said Z for you. There you go.
Americanized.
I've been Americanized. I even like when I write write Americanized too. Like I drop the extra U's. I'm so ashamed.
No honor.
No colors. All right, people are not here to listen to me talk about being Canadian. Zach, what was your initial thoughts from this game tonight?
Well, I thought it was a pretty staunch departure from Barracuda hockey. Really, there were. There's just so many spots that you can really begin the undisciplined play with the penalties. Really uncharacteristic of this team that's really built around skill and speed and kind of a team defense as opposed to like a big, heavy defense that you might see on other squads. So that was really the first thing that stood out to me. Also, quite frankly, the production of what we'd probably call the first line with Danny O'Regan, Timo Meier, and Kevin LeBanc. That's back-to-back games now. Obviously, Timo Meier just joining the team after the Sharks' loss, but you would expect a bit more of these young players, and we'll get into that a bit more. But sure. It kind of just soup to nuts. I thought Joachim Ryan and Tim Heed struggled in this game. You really can't blame them. They've been absolute rocks for the Barracuda for 67 games. So
right.
I really can't remember another game where I would even point to them being anything except for positively instrumental for the Barracuda.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, my takeaway obviously is, my initial takeaway is you can't spot a team 4 goals in the first and expect to win a game.
Right.
As valiant as the effort may be, you can't win games like that, especially not in the playoffs.
Sure.
And we've seen the Barracuda mount comebacks from some of these poor starts before, but it wasn't in the cards tonight. And it went back to what you said about the goaltending. You have, they went from Gillies to Rittich, and it's really a lateral move at that point.
Right.
There's a drop off when you put the backup in. And Rittich, to his credit, came in and really calmed the game down, and I think was a big part of why the Stockton Heat won, because he came in and he did what he needed to do. And then, the Heat extended their lead again, and the Barracuda didn't have an answer.
Yeah, and I also kind of want to touch back to game 1, and even though that was a 4-0 score, I don't think that was indicative of the play, and we touched on that, on Friday. Today's Sunday. Gotta get my bearings here. I think this game kind of showed when Troy Grosnick is just solid and good instead of lights out. This is what can happen against the Stockton Heat. They're a heavy team. They're physical. I think it's very fair to say they got the Barracuda off their game in game 2 with some uncharacteristic penalties. And and not to pin this on Grosnick, but the defense wasn't spectacular in game 1 either. So we saw the defense continue to have really defensive coverage issues. We pointed to Tim Heed and Joachim Ryan perhaps having a subpar game, but really the entire team defense, I think, suffered. And this time around, instead of Troy Grosnick standing on his head and making acrobatic game-saving plays, they got some through. And Jankowski, I thought, had a stellar game after being nearly invisible in game one.
Yep. Yeah, no, he really did. And that's probably a good place to start, because with the physical play and the Barracuda coming off their game, the power plays, there was 13 power plays in this game between the two teams. I think 7 for the Heat, or 7 for the Barracuda, sorry, and 6 for the Heat. Each team was successful on just one power play, so that's kind of a feather in the Barracuda's cap. But the Barracuda, I tweeted this too. Like, this is the kind of stuff the stuff they did tonight was the kind of stuff they didn't do in game one. And the frustrating part for me was one of the biggest culprits. As much as I love him, John McCarthy really lost his cool a couple of times. And in my opinion, and that's your captain. That's who your guys are looking to for an example. And I understand, look at, I like the fact that he was obviously, sticking up for his team and things, but at the same time, he was kind of a loose cannon tonight at the same time.
I think that's a fair assessment. And even O'Regan's slashing penalty there towards the end was an uncharacteristic,
right.
Play from him. And, looking at the penalties, really a lot of this came down to, O'Regan had a slashing penalty in the first. McCarthy had the slashing in the second. O'Regan had another one in the third. Those are the kind of penalties. I didn't think any of them were really necessary. They weren't trying to save a goal or anything like that. They were just frustration penalties. Mm-hmm. But that's what the Heat are trying to do. They're right. They know they're going to take penalties. They're going to try to get the Barracuda to come on into the penalty box with them, and they've done a good job of doing that while still, playing hockey. This is a team that takes a lot of penalties, the Heat, but
right.
They can play hockey. It's not just a goon squad out there, piling up the minutes.
No. But it's too bad. I was seeing the Washington Capitals moving on in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So poor Toronto. All right, back on topic. So obviously the one thing, and this is concerning, especially after on the same vein here, because we know that Stockton's going to take penalties, and the Barracuda's power play has gone from being awesome to just nothing. And I know that people are still sour about the Sharks getting bounced, but this Barracuda power play was good a week ago. It's not like it was, it was bad all year. So it's a little bit frustrating to see the Barracuda's power play struggling. And I think a big part of it is just, again, you go back to the kids not producing, and you have to look at some of the cuteness that needs to probably go away at this point.
Yeah, I think they're trying a little bit too much razzle-dazzle in the play. It needs to just kind of turn back to, that north-south with crisp passing. It's just not been – I don't know if it's that the magic hasn't been rekindled. That might be pushing it a little bit too far, but – this was a squad that had spent a lot of time together through their own training camps, got out to the hot start, and then Kevin LeBanc gets called up, and pretty much from that point, it's been a hodgepodge. Mm-hmm. Meyer's been up for long stretches. Sorensen's been up. Carpenter played, I believe, 11 games. So, I saw Marcus Sorensen down in the locker room after the game. He wasn't in a suit. He was just in street clothes. So he's around the team. I haven't checked to see if there's anything on the transaction wire quite yet.
I looked today, and the only transaction was Timo Meier, which makes me wonder if Sorensen's nursing injury that preventing him from being sent down.
Yeah, perhaps. And with that big hit he took from McDavid, that maybe something got rattled loose there. But I mean, he played last night. He was going to play a 3 p.m. game today.
Right. Oh, and that too, for sure. I
Right.
mean, no one would expect that from him. I mean, Timo didn't play,
Right.
and so obviously seeing him in the lineup wasn't a surprise. I'm sure, maybe he'll stick around with the Sharks until after locker room cleanout tomorrow, and then after, that happens, then maybe he gets the official transaction back to the Barracuda, and hopefully he gets back in the lineup because, especially on that power play, they could use him.
Yeah, and adding Sorensen, it'll be interesting where they slot him in. I certainly wouldn't break up the Chartier, Haluka, Robinson line. I think they've been excellent. Robinson with another shorthanded goal today to make it interesting at 5-4 before the empty netter. But it's going to be interesting because do you break up the veteran line who, outside of a couple missed time penalties, have really carried a lot of water?
Right.
Ryan Carpenter had 3 assists tonight or today. There I went. John McCarthy, had another goal. So, where do you put him in? Do you say, well, maybe LeBanc or maybe Timo's not doing it on the wings, so you drop one of them down to, Blackwell's line? There's going to be some interesting juggling going on here once, if and when Sorensen returns.
The thing too, like since we're talking about like the wings and stuff, what did you think of Meyer's game today? I wasn't overly impressed. I thought it was AHL Meyer again. Like I was kind of hoping that he was going to come down and bring some of that game that he was playing with the Sharks, because I think that was the best run of hockey I've seen him play this year. In the playoffs with the Sharks.
I thought he had 2 really strong moves, to the net using his.
Oh yeah, yes, that silly gypsy doodle thing that he did was ridiculous. Don't get me
wrong. I think overall, when you're playing those big minutes, and we've seen what these young men are capable of, and it's important to remember that Danny O'Regan is the old man on that line at the ripe old age of 22.
Yeah, I know, the old man.
Right. And LeBanc just turned, or no, Danny O'Regan's 23, excuse me.
Right.
LeBanc just turned 21. Myers, just behind him.
Right. Yeah, 20. I think he turns 20 in the fall.
Yeah, this is a young squad, and that's an especially young line. So they're all in their first year. There's going to be hiccups. I think the issue is that Barracuda fans have seen what these players are capable of. But play gets harder in the postseason. It doesn't matter what level of hockey you're at. Nobody's playing just for a participation ribbon.
Right. No, exactly.
But
yeah, I just, because because Timo is an agitator, but I find like he can be really agitating for players, but he can also be pulled over the edge. Like he reminds me when it comes to that, especially in the AHL, for some reason, he reminds me a lot of Milan Lucic, where if you pull him off his game, he is an absolute disaster, just doing stupid things. But if you can keep him on that line, then he's a super effective player, and a player that I was high on and then soured on, and now I'm high on again because that's the roller coaster that is being a Sharks fan.
I thought his game overall was solid. Most of my complaints team wide, and I don't think there's any player that I would give a pass to really was the 5-on-5 defense. There's just whatever is missing, it's completely lost. This was a team that was really, really tight, was able to, get centers and forwards back to help on defense, and was good at getting in lanes, quickly transitioning. And that's just not what's happening here. And credit to the Heat too. They're playing a pretty traditional trap as well, and it's proving to be difficult for the Barracuda. And I think that working their way through that is part of the challenge as well. But now the Heat have stolen home ice.
Yep.
It goes now next weekend, 2 games in Stockton. And so in theory, Stockton can, lock this entire series down at home.
Yep, that's the unfortunate thing. And I think the Barracuda. I mean, the one thing we've seen is, especially now that they got kind of just messed over the way they did. Like, I'm hoping we see that Barracuda rebound that we've seen all season. After a disappointing loss, and I definitely put this game in that category. You talked about the you talked about the defense, and the frustrating thing is, it's like it wasn't one defenseman. Joachim
Right.
Ryan got walked. Mirko Mueller should have blocked a shot or gotten out of the way. There was problems just across the board. It wasn't like you can just be like, I know everyone's favorite punching bag's Mirko Mueller, but it wasn't just Mueller.
I thought Mueller actually had a very strong game. Outside of that one play where he kind of acted as a screen, he had blocked the shot right before it. I thought he was pretty solid tonight, actually. I thought him and Bergman were probably kind of the best of the rest. Middleton and DeSimone didn't get a ton of ice time when they were out there. They were capable, and as you pointed out, it was an uncharacteristic rough game for Ryan and Heed. But I think that a lot of this is just kind of getting back to the lab.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing, I think, wrong with this team per se. They didn't forget how to hockey.
No.
But whatever those tweaks are that were allowing them to really impose their will, and I don't know if it's kind of something of, I mean, there's just so many things. It's speculation. Mm-hmm. It's a young team. Is fatigue finally catching up with them?
Yep.
They're off tomorrow, and then they'll have some practice time. But we'll see what comes out in Stockton. And Stockton's been pretty solid on home ice.
Yes, they have.
Especially during their run to overtake the Condors, which, in March looked pretty daunting. And then here we are.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And the Heat were the team I don't think anyone in the Pacific wanted to play.
No.
They've been playing playoff hockey for over a month. They're a big team. They've got a lot of veterans on that squad. They've got two goalies where if one's not going, that's fine. They have complete faith in the other. It's going to be, I think it's going to be more of a series than a lot of people were giving it credit for, and especially if Jankowski wakes up.
Yeah, that concerns me, because he was pretty on today. But that's
right.
The thing with Jankowski. It's either he's on or he's off, and there's no, flip a coin and you might get it right whether he's going to be on or off or not. It seems like he's been so inconsistent. But if he wakes up, yeah, I mean, the Barracuda are going to have their hands full. I mean, this is still a series they can win. I'm not super despondent about this game, but there's definitely issues that the Barracuda have to correct, and defense being absolutely key at this point. But it is worth mentioning, though. I mean, obviously, look, they almost came back today, and I think that's still, that's a positive. They did come up short, but you have to give them a lot of credit, especially the 3 unanswered goals in the second. Or, well, I guess 2 unanswered, and then they answered finally. But you got to give them, some credit for that. They didn't just roll over and die. Like, I was kind of like, first intermission came, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm like, oh, I have to watch the rest of this. We're doing a show. Do I want to watch? No, not really. But I have to. We're doing a show, so I should probably know what I'm talking about. And obviously, I'm glad I stuck with it, because that was, they made a game of it at least, and I hope that they can build off of that a little bit.
Yeah, and the 3 unanswered goals, and especially kind of in rapid fire,
Mm-hmm.
Less than 5 minutes. They nearly even this game up until Shinkarik's really nice turn to get one on that far side, and he's another one where and that's the thing. I think that people are getting a little too locked into first seed versus fourth seed, etc. Mm-hmm. The Stockton Heat, I think they create matchup problems no matter who they were going to face. And then tonight they added Matthew Phillips. He's a small, speedy, skilled winger from the Victoria Royals in the WHL. So they're getting their own skilled reinforcements here. it's only his second AHL game, but I've seen a lot of him in the dub, and he is a shifty, uh, skilled forward. He's drastically undersized at 5'7", but he's got hands, and he's got some spunk to him. I don't think he's going to be intimidated.
Right. No, I agree. And you're starting to see more and more players in that small, but you're not pushing me around mold now, coming through, because that's the only way these guys are going to make it in the pros. Let's be honest.
Right.
You have to, because it's still a big man's game. You're seeing a lot more guys like Johnny Gaudreau and stuff, but it's always going to be that small guys. He has to earn it, right? Like, he has to earn his spot more than the big guy. The big guy has to prove he can't play. The small guy has to prove he can. Exactly.
And so, we'll see. And it was good to see that bounce back effort, but after the game, there wasn't a lot of, honestly, Roy Sommer was the most positive anyone I talked to. He liked the combativeness to contest the game and really wake up from that dismal first period.
Mm-hmm.
So that, when the coach is the one that's happy with your game, that's a bit of a concern. But I think that's a good thing. These are players that expect more out of themselves. They expect to go in there and win and put up a good showing. And I think they all knew what it meant, that this was not their effort. This is not what they need to be doing to be successful. So, there's positives to take away from the negatives, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Christine brings up an interesting point in the chat too, which I kind of wonder how much plays a factor. With the Sharks eliminated, I mean, all eyes are on them now. Do you think that played a factor somewhat? I mean, they've kind of the SAP Center is more full than we've seen it all year. $2 beer will help that. But at the same, it's obviously not going to fill up like a Sharks game would, but the eyeballs are definitely there now. This team's going to get attention that it really didn't get all year, and it's going to be interesting to see how that plays for some of them, I think.
I think that's an interesting thought. I'm not sure I would subscribe to it. I mean, after the games, there's Mike Ricci, there's Nabokov, there's Doug Wilson, Jim Will. The team is always around. The opinions that matter, and I think that the extra energy from the crowd is helping the team. There does seem to be some uncharacteristic spunk. Maybe playing up to the audience a little bit. So I think that's more what the over 5,900 was the announced attendance today, which for the Barracuda game, that's excellent, and
that's amazing.
It gets loud in there. It's a good atmosphere. It's a family friendly atmosphere. My mom actually asked me, "It's like, oh, you want to go to the Barracuda game?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to be there, Mom." I guess she had gone on Friday and I didn't know, and she loved it.
Right.
And so it's good that folks are bringing that attention, because I think it's going to help them. It's going to get them a little bit more excited, give them a little bit more of home ice, as opposed to just kind of being able to go up and shake everyone's hand that's there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it should be interesting. There's obviously there's going to be a lot of pressure on this team, though, man. There's high expectations for this team. And hopefully they don't crumble under the weight of that. Christine was saying it was more her being down, not the team. Look at the last night sucked, and I'm not gonna lie. When I saw the score go 4-0, I was just kind of like, do I really need this today? Do I want this today? But I stuck with it, and I'm glad I did.
I mean, they certainly made a game of it, and Joachim Ryan had that pair of goals. And he's usually really good after the games. He's the leader on the defense, so he gets a lot of requests. After today's game, he I think he knew that it was a rough game. He did
Mm-hmm.
not seem pleased whatsoever to be answering any questions, but he's a professional. He came out, he did his job, but I think he knew kind of the tone in his answers that this was an effort that he expects more out of himself as well.
Right.
And John McCarthy said as much as well, that the team expects better team defense, and they just can't be relying on Grosnick to outplay the entire other team
Right.
while they pot 2 or 3 goals. It's going to be a team effort. And this, in our last show, I mentioned, I think the Heat come back, and I think this is a good kind of punch in the mouth for the Barracuda. This lets them know that the Stockton team is here to play. They've got the skill to play. They've got the net minding, to lock it down at times. This is not a team to be taken lightly.
Yeah. Oh, they even opened up an extra counter of concessions. There you go, man. San Jose Barracuda moving up. But I completely agree, though. I think this is good for them, because I think this is a team where, the talk around them is they're just, like, a lot of people have already put them in the Calder Cup finals, and we know the playoffs don't work like that. So I think it is a good punch in the mouth for them to get to get a loss like this. I mean, this is the thing, right? I mean, this is the American Hockey League, and obviously these guys want to win, but this is, like anything else, it's a learning experience for them too. So, you want these guys to face adversity early. You want them to, to have to be able to bounce back, and so they can carry that on when they become NHLers at some point. So I'm fine with them getting punched in the mouth. I just need to see the rebound at this point.
Right. And it'll be good to get, I think this is the kind of effort you wish that they weren't going to still be playing until, next Friday. This is where I think that long layoff hurts. This is the kind of game you want to go back, look at the tape the next day, and get right back out there and correct it. This long layoff, I don't think helps a team trying to correct things in their game. By the time next Friday rolls around, they're going to have 2 or 3 practices. They'll still hear it. The coaching staff will remind them of it, but you want to correct the behavior immediately. Regardless, whatever you're trying to do, if you're trying to fix something, you want to fix it and get right back at it. You don't want to fix it and say, "I'm sure it'll work 5 days from now."
Yeah. Where's my notes? I have my notes. I have a napkin here that I've been writing on. Barracuda, I mean, they put a ton of shots on goal, though.
Their shot attempts were out of this world.
Yeah. Like it was insane how many shots they got on goal. But I think it was even in the first. I think, what was it, 15-9,
and
in favor of the Barracuda.
I was sitting next to the Stockton reporter who was covering, and Stockton, even he mentioned, like, they're doing an excellent job. They're a team that blocks shots, and even for a team that blocks shots, they were blocking a ton of shots. So if the AHL kept Corsi stats, this would have been ugly.
This would have been ugly. Corsi's dead this playoffs, though. That's what I've been told. But yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I mean, obviously that would be. I wish someone did, because I think the numbers would be just silly for the Barracuda.
Yeah,
just absolute silly.
That there was one power play in the third period. I forgot which one. I don't have my notebook here. But 3 consecutive real good angle shots. Shots that could have made some noise there in front of David Rittich were blocked. One of them was the one that when Tim Heed tried to kill Mike Angelidis.
Yep.
That was one of the 3 in that sequence. But that was really indicative of the game. The Heat were really smart with their sticks, staying on their feet, no starfish defensive posture, trademark.
That's true. Yep.
And I think that's, you see why I go crazy about that. You drop to a knee, you get a leg out, you try to make yourself big, but you stay where you can recover. You block a shot, but then you get to where you need to be to either clear it, influence a play, or in Mike Angelidis' case, crawl back on your hands and knees to the gate so another penalty killer can come out. You can't do that laying on your stomach.
Right.
You know,
I mean, for me, it goes down to this. I mean, yeah, look at the Barracuda. The offensive effort was pretty solid. The defense was definitely suspect, and probably there was a couple saves that Grosnick could have made there. But I'm not going to completely dump on Grosnick here. But at the end of the day, it's good to have all these opportunities, but you got to make Calgary Stockton made them count. And that, to me, that's going to be the difference in this game is just Stockton had, they made good on what they had. And the Barracuda solid comeback. But again, you spot a team 4 goals in the first period. Makes it very difficult for yourself to win a game.
Yeah. And the Heat, the chances that they got, I thought they got some pretty good looks. They had a couple bounces as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought the goal. Which one? I'm trying to remember. I believe was it the power play goal, the one that Timo blocked the first one. I'm never forgetting my notebook again before the show. Anyway, I thought that was like a partial screen. But again, he's really turned the corner. He's turned him, Grosnick, that is, into a very sound, technically savvy goaltender. And part of that is your reliance on your defense. And so that way you're there to make that save. And when you can't trust your defense, that's when it gets in your head. You start cheating a little bit, and that's when everything opens up. So it's a bit of chicken and the egg. Game 1, he was able to pull some just phenomenal saves from absolutely nowhere. Even tonight, he had one where on replay, he actually kicked it with his skate blade. I think it was Vea again. Didn't get everything on it. And he pushed across, got out the kick save, and then gave it a little nudge because he knew he wasn't going to hit his pad, and he tipped it wide with the skate of his blade. It was an excellent save. So, I completely concur with you. Pinning this on Grosnick is just
it's not fair.
It's wrong.
Yeah, it's not fair.
But they definitely have some areas that if the defense isn't going to shape up against the Stockton Heat, it can get even worse as they roll on. Oh
yeah, I mean, depending on who they face next round, if they can't, if they are to get through, and I'm not saying that they're guaranteed through, but the even the Reign, I'd be worried about if this defense can't turn around at this point. Whereas a week ago, I wouldn't have said that.
Yeah, I think that with whatever is going on here in the long layoffs, it's going to be tough to get back out and test the changes. I think that this is going to be a concern until they're able to string together a couple games where we see their defense return to the level that they're capable of.
Right. I mean, that's going to be key. And Christine, Christine in the chat making a lot of good comments here. I mean, the second the Barracuda put the puck in the net, you could just kind of feel like you kind of felt what was coming, and then 2 goals, 3 goals, and you're right in there again because we've seen this team give up some stupid leads and then come back. So there's definitely that belief there that this team can, this team is better than it's played. That's the bottom line, really. And I've had more faith in this team turning things around than I did the parent club. And I don't think that's, I would have said that a week ago. I would have said that a month ago. But it's nice. I mean, that's the one thing with this team. This team is better than it is playing right now. And that's I think the most important takeaway is that this team is much better than it's playing.
Very true. But the key there is you have to have that belief you can come back and that ability, but you can't rely on it.
No.
And that's...
I was speaking more from like a fan perspective than a on the bench perspective. Like I feel more comfortable when the Barracuda start turning it around that, they're really going to be in this and they could really do it. They could really pull that out. And because they've earned that trust from the fans, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen them come back from, some poor periods and down, 2-3 goals going into the third, so that they're certainly capable of it. It's that it's looking to become a bit of a pattern.
Yeah, we don't want it.
Yeah.
Don't want it. PK wasn't bad. At least I think if there's a silver lining, the Barracuda did take some dumb penalties, but they killed all but one off, and I thought that was a positive, that the PK is going to be strong, because that's going to be a big point for the Barracuda, especially in this series. If you're going to play Stockton's game, you better be able to kill off the penalties that you take.
Right. I think that definitely was a positive.
So, anything else from this game that we need to cover that we haven't really covered? I feel like we did pretty good.
It looks like Jerk store hours are open.
Ooh.
But is he on mute? I could unmute him.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Hockey Jerk. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
We're good, all things considered. What did you think of the game today? What was your takeaways?
Honestly, it's not the start you want, obviously, but I enjoyed myself. I had no issue with the fact that it was 4-0 at the end of the first. We've seen the Barracuda come back from similar deficits in the past, especially this year, and I knew they had the firepower to get it done. And it's one of those games where, there's a lot of goal scoring, and I said it. How many times do you score 4 goals and lose? Which kind of makes me feel good about the rest of the games in the series. I would say overall, I enjoyed it. There were a couple lapses. I noticed, the power play was a bit questionable, but other than that, I thought it was a solid effort, especially in the second half of the game once the the comeback started happening.
Right. What did you? Me and Zach were talking a little bit about how you kind of don't want to play the Barracuda's game, or not the Barracuda's game. You don't play the Barracuda's game. You don't want to play the Heat's game. I know you were pretty. I won't say hot on Twitter, but you were pretty adamant on Twitter about some of the discipline.
Oh yeah, it was, and you know what? That's the kind of style the Heat play. I mean, we've seen it. What? How many times did the Barracuda play the Heat this year? 12 times, and
something stupid.
Something
800,
ridiculous.
I think I counted.
Yeah, and a lot of the time, if the Heat are down in a game, or if they feel like the game is slipping away from them, they're going to start, just being intimidating and kind of get you to take the extra stupid penalty. And we saw, in the last 4 minutes of regulation, they kill off the penalty, and it's like, all right, let's get this thing going. And then Danny O'Regan slashes Riddich's stick right out of his hands.
Right.
Like that. I even said it on Twitter, and I didn't hold back at all. It was a stupid penalty to take. I mean, stupid wasn't the word I used, but it was just a penalty you don't need to take. And I mean, he only knows what the goalie said to him, but still, like, with the type of player that Danny O'Regan is, I mean, in the regular season, I think he had 4 penalties all year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's just not who he is. And then there were a couple instances where John McCarthy, I noticed, kind of got off the rails a little bit. It, say what you will, it doesn't help when you have, Hathaway on the Heat, kicking helmets and stomping sticks.
Sure.
But even then, like, he's the captain, and you got to keep things in check sometimes.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the defense obviously was a huge issue tonight. What did you think of the defensive effort as a whole? Who stood out to you?
Honestly, I've really, in the last little bit of the regular season, the playoffs, I've really come to enjoy the Middleton and DeSimone pairing. I think they moved the puck really well, and I think they're very underrated when it comes to getting the puck out of their zone. That, and I mean, Heat and Ryan, they come as advertised. They're your gunners, and they're gonna do what they always do. But the thing that really bothered me was, crucial power plays in the third period when you need 2 goals to tie the game, and you're starting your top unit with Mirko Mueller and Julius Bergman, who, if you ask me, is probably the less offensively minded of the 3 Barracuda pairs. And
right.
We saw this at least 2 or 3 times, at least I did, and I didn't understand the philosophy behind it, considering all game, I guess their routine was you get it to get it to Mueller, he fakes the slap shot, you give it to Bergman, he fakes the slap shot, and then passes it off to, Carpenter or Chartier, whoever the center is, and then he shoots it, and it's either blocked or Gillies or Riddich makes the save. And it's just, putting that pair out there when you needed a goal, that just stood out to me as really confusing.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. It was an interesting game, to say the least. I'm going to go for a couple of questions from the chat that I've been. Oh, go ahead, Zach.
Real quick, Jerk brought up the Hathaway incident. And I'm not sure if folks watching at home or if you missed it. Hathaway actually took John McCarthy's helmet, which came off in the fracas, skated over to it, held it down, used his stick to scruff up the visor, and then kicked it.
Jeez.
And I saw that. I was watching. I'm like, that just really sums up Stockton Heat hockey right there.
Well, really I saw that, and already I was appalled. I was like, geez, what a jerk. But then, he skates.
And coming from Hockey Jerk.
That's what I'm saying.
That says plenty.
And then he skates to the other side of the crowd and, scoots Barclay Goodrow's stick away from the crowd and then stomped on the blade. Like, what are you doing?
Being a jerk.
But like you said, it was a definitely interesting game. And, Troy Grosnick let in 5 goals. But honestly, you have a hard time forcing me to say that he was at fault for all of them. There were just so many defensive lapses in the first period that there was nothing Grosnick could do about it.
Yeah, no, I am with you there. Like I said, there's maybe a couple of that, but I don't. I always get in trouble for this too because I think you can say a goalie let in a bad goal without the blame being and it always seems like anytime I ever do this, I always get why are you blaming the goalie? I'll save it for Wednesday. I felt the tangent coming on and it's too off topic, so we'll save it for Wednesday. Just a couple of things.
What were the questions that we were trying to get to? Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Are they going to extend DeSimone? DeSimone has a 2-year contract. He's just on an ATO to not burn a year of it, so he's around for sure for the next 2 years. Mantis Armalis, obviously not backing up Troy Grosnick at this point. It is what it is. I don't think Armalis is back next year. I mean, I don't know if Saunders is back either, unless it's maybe in a backup role. But
somebody cue up Jamie Murray's theme song.
Maybe. Who knows? I haven't even looked at Jamie Murray's numbers in the E this year. Does anyone know how they are off the top of your head?
They were. We'll call them modest.
Okay, maybe not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so I don't know. I think the Teal Steel experiment is over. He was only on a 1-year deal. It was really, you had really nothing to lose by it. I don't think it's something that you should get mad at Doug Wilson over. I think that it was a good, low risk, potentially high payoff pickup. And, sometimes those don't work out, but I would rather him take the chance than not take the chance. We agree on that.
I think certainly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Troy Grosnick's future, again, this we've kind of discussed this a lot. I'm not shocked to see Troy Grosnick move on. Armalis KHL back to Sweden. I don't know where he's going. He's going somewhere. Europe. Yeah, let's just say Europe. Grosnick, look, he's an unrestricted free agent. He's not getting any younger. He's probably going to look for a shot to try and parlay this season into something where he has a better shot of seeing the NHL. And then hoping he can play his way up. He's not going to do that in San Jose. He's not surpassing Aaron Dell, and he's certainly not surpassing Jones as sour as people might be on Jones right now. He's not passing either of them. And he's only, and the thing with Grosnick that I always caution people is other than this season, man, don't look back too far. You're not going to like what you see.
Right.
Yep.
So I think that the Sharks, if he, I think the Sharks would love to have Grosnick back, but I think Grosnick, all these guys are competitive. They have one goal, and that's to get into the NHL. And Grosnick's got to, he's going to realize that opportunity isn't in San Jose. So I think he moves on, and that's unfortunate for the Barracuda. But yeah, I don't see it.
Do you think the Sharks try to get an asset by moving his rights at the draft?
I don't think he's that valuable.
Question. I don't. Again, I think you might. I mean,
and that's not to
seventh.
Yeah, and that's not to disparage, Troy Grosnick. It's that if you're looking at let's say he's a 2B goalie, right?
Sure.
So he's going to sit there and slug it out with the other the backup you have in the NHL that you're not all that confident with, right? So he's going to be part of that goalie three-headed monster that everyone hates. I'm not sure in today's NHL where you have goalies in Europe, KHL, SHL, Liga, seemingly everywhere, there's goalies looking for jobs.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure that is really worth anything. Could you toss in his rights as a sweetener? Certainly. I just don't think you could trade Troy Grosnick's rights unless there's a unknown future consideration floating around somewhere. I just don't see it.
And really, we need more 7th round picks. We only have 3.
This is true.
How are we going to rebuild if we don't have more 7th round picks?
That's what I'm saying.
But yeah, I just think he moves on to greener pastures, and that's not a slight on Grosnick. I think that, again, Grosnick's had a really good year this year, but the underlying numbers aren't good for Grosnick, and I would be very cautious of any team, committing to him long term based on one season, which has been very, very good. And I'm not trying to take a crap on Grosnick. I just think and goalies are voodoo. We know this. But if
the darkest of dark arts,
the darkest of dark arts. But if I'm a GM, I'm not getting too high over one season. That's just my opinion. I don't know how people feel.
I think Grosnick could next year pull an Aaron Dell, though. I think he could go into camp and say, hey, we've got 2 or 3 guys that we're going to see what happens. And I think Grosnick might emerge, another season, back in BC working with his goalie coach and refining some things. Maybe he can go in there and lock down a backup job.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Hey, he could Tim Thomas things. And that's that's the way goalies are. They're voodoo.
Right.
And that's the thing too, is you think about how many teams, whether they want to or whether they have to, there are a lot of teams who would like some more options in that. I think Calgary would be a team interested in exploring that. Same thing with Dallas, maybe even Detroit. And, Pittsburgh is going to lose one of their goalies this summer anyways. So.
Right. And that's something that I'm sure frequent viewers of Teal Town USA are going to just be sick to death of me hearing, but I'm going to say it again. Mm-hmm. There's a whole new franchise coming into the NHL that is going to open a lot of jobs. I was chatting with one scout, a guy like Buddy Robinson, where in a 30-team NHL environment, he's probably a fringe cup of coffee kind of player. You add 25 new contracts into the NHL, and teams trying to figure out, well, heck, we just lost, 2 guys, one via free agency, one via expansion draft in our bottom 6. Heck, let's see what this 6'6" guy that scores a ton of shorthanded goals and plays like a bull can do. That's what those are the types. Barclay Goodrow is another one where
great example.
Those guys are going to be getting long looks and a lot of calls by teams that lost 2 guys in free agency and lost a forward to the expansion draft.
Okay, final question. Do you think, because we have seen different faces on the blue line this year for the Barracuda, do you see any changes coming? Zach, I'll go to you first.
Well, ZG Salt, who has one of the best letters at the start of his name, says, "I wear my sunglasses at night, so I can. So we're gonna go.
Nice.
There we go.
Nice.
Yeah. So now I'm wearing them on a podcast because I can.
There you go.
So take that, ZG Salt. Sorry, what was the question again?
Do the Barracuda make any changes on the blue line going into next game?
Heck no.
Jerk.
Well, will they? Probably not. Should they? I would limit Mueller and Bergman's ice time, but I'm not the coach. So
Do they go back to 7?
no.
Ooh.
I don't think.
Oh, wait, Jerk. Before you say that, I'm going to save you because you're a friend. What happens when Sorensen is possibly available for next game, and they might be looking to shake up the defense? Ooh.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I feel like the forward depth of the Barracuda is such an asset
Agreed.
that they should use all the guys that they can, which is why, I know you and I, Zach, were talking about this. If I'm Roy Sommer, I just pop Sorensen right into where Stortini is and just have that be your speed line. And you know what? Blackwell, Nikita Jalapenos, and Sorensen, that's the Barracuda's fourth line, but by no means, like, they can still put in some work, especially Blackwell. Like, that could be a really good speed line.
Sounds, yeah. No, I don't disagree. I don't know. I mean, could they go back to dressing 7? I mean, they've dressed 7 defensemen, as Zach's pointed out many times. They've dressed 7 defensemen a lot. I wouldn't be shocked to see them go back to dressing the 7th D, but time will tell. Other than that, I think we've done a good job wrapping up this game. Guys, we're gonna do a look at Wednesday. I think Wednesday, tentative Wednesday. Sorry, camera over here. We will talk nothing but Sharks for as long as it takes.
Yeah.
And I want to kind of get these shows down a little bit, these post-game shows down a little bit, because there's a lot of stuff that we ask everyone to listen to, and I'm trying to be mindful of that. So come back Wednesday. We're going to answer all your NHL questions, because obviously we have a huge body that we need to autopsy. So bring all your autopsy tools, and we're going to go to work, and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Bring a snack, bring a canteen. I mean, we're gonna do some work on Wednesday. There's gonna be a lot of heavy lifting.
Bring a bag, because some of these body parts opening up might, you might need to vomit. I'm sorry. So come back Wednesday.
And if you're one of those other kinds of people, bring a camera. Might be interesting.
Bring a fork and a spoon. You know what? We take all cameras. All right, guys. Really appreciate you guys. Look at 20 people coming on to listen to us talk about the AHL is awesome, and it makes my heart all nice and warm. And I'm a robot, so it shouldn't be. I should get that checked out. Really appreciate. Final thoughts, Zach?
I had this series going to 5 after game 1. I thought Stockton played well and would have a bounce back effort. Outside of David Rittich coming in relief instead of starting, it probably went about where I thought it would. Stockton's going to be a tough out. The Barracuda have their hands full, and I'm concerned about a week of practice instead of getting right back on the horse. But Sommer's done a very good job of steering this ship all season long, so I think Barracuda fans can rest assured in that.
Hockey Jerk.
I believe I said the Barracuda in 4, so we're still on pace for that. But if you go back to our playoff preview, I also said that Stockton was probably going to give the Barracuda a run for their money and probably take one of the games in San Jose. So, I mean, again, still on par for that. But you know what? Barracuda have been a good team all year. They've been a resilient team all year, and they've been able to, when they have the hand around the throat, if you will, they've been able to finish the job. And so I think they'll come out looking strong in Game 3.
Yeah, I think that the Barracuda, one thing that we've said to death to their credit is that they bounce back. So I'm expecting a strong Barracuda game. Again, I had the series going 4-2, so this was bound to happen. I think that if the Barracuda can get back on their game and have a good bounce back game, they can take back home ice advantage and hopefully make Stockton people go home sad. Other than that, guys, again, thanks again. We will do a post game of some sort on Friday after the game in Stockton.
Yeah.
And then what do they play Sunday? Is it another afternoon game Sunday?
Yeah, they play Friday night, and I'll be joining in progress like this previous Friday. I'll be returning from Stockton and joining Ian and hopefully the Hockey Jerk and some of our other Barracuda specialists. And then Sunday's game is 4 p.m. So
there we go.
A little bit later.
Locked in for both games?
I will be.
Okay. Well, I think what I'd like to do for that Sunday game is just do the same time because it's a lot easier. These afternoon games are hell because it's like there's kids to put to bed and it's rough when those afternoon games end for me. So okay, so there you go. Wednesday night, I want to do a more normal show for us. We're gonna autopsy the Sharks, and then this weekend we will be back at it covering Barracuda games 3 and 4. With that, have a good night, guys.